The blare of my phone jerks from a dreamless sleep at 2:17 a.m. My security app flashes red with an urgent notification. Someone is at the greenhouse. My heart lurches into a frantic rhythm as I fumble for my glasses, for my keys, for anything that will steady my shaking hands. I drag on yesterday's jeans, the denim stiff where dried soil still cakes the knees, and pull a sweatshirt over my head without bothering to check if it's inside out. The drive to my property feels endless, every red light a personal attack, every second stretching thin and unbearable. My headlights sweep across the entrance gate, and my breath catches painfully in my throat. The padlock dangles uselessly from the chain, snapped clean in two like it never stood a chance. I leave the engine running, beams flooding the gravel path in harsh white light, and push the gate open with numb fingers. The crunch beneath my boots is unmistakable. Glass. It fractures under my weight with a sharp, splintering sound that echoes into the hollow space of my chest. Each step forward reveals more ruin, more chaos. No, no, no! The words spill out of me in a whisper, fragile and disbelieving, as if saying them louder might make the destruction more real. Inside, devastation greets me in suffocating waves. Thousands of plants lie in broken heaps across the concrete floor. Hanging baskets have been ripped down and smashed. Orchids I nurtured for months are severed through their delicate stems. Rare succulents imported at triple cost are ground into pulp beneath muddy boot prints. The Hartwell property order, $22,000 worth of painstakingly cultivated inventory, lies obliterated beyond repair. I stagger toward the small office in the back corner, my legs unsteady, clinging to the desperate hope that the cameras caught something, anything, that might explain this nightmare. The security monitor flickers on beneath my trembling hand. I rewind the footage, my pulse pounding so loudly I can barely hear the audio. Then I see him. Tyler. My brother's face is illuminated clearly as he steps into frame. No hood, no attempt at concealment. He stares directly into the lens with deliberate intent and lifts the garden shears he took from my own shed, almost like a salute. The fury in his eyes is cold, controlled, purposeful. He moves methodically from row to row, slicing, smashing, overturning. This isn't a drunken rampage. It's systematic. 2 full hours of deliberate destruction. Every so often, he glances up at the camera again, making sure I will know, making sure I will see. My knees buckle and I sink down among shattered pots and spilled soil. 1 week ago, we were seated around my parents' dining table, passing dishes beneath the warm glow of recessed lights. Mom handed me the mashed potatoes, while Dad gave that subtle throat clear that always signaled trouble. Isla, honey, Tyler's between jobs again. Your greenhouse would be such a good fit for him. You're thriving now. I had set my fork down carefully, steadying my voice before answering. I can't hire anyone right now, and Tyler doesn't know the first thing about plant care. Dad had let out a humorless chuckle. He just needs a shot. It's watering flowers, not rocket science. I swallowed the explanation about soil acidity, humidity control systems, disease management protocols, and client-specific growth timelines. Mom reached for my hand, her palms smooth and soft. Family takes care of family. I told them no, calmly, firmly. The Hartwell contract was too critical. Tyler had smiled in that tight way of his and said he understood. But by the next morning, the texts began. You think you're better than everyone. Must be nice being the golden child with the perfect little business. Family doesn't matter to you. After 3 days of escalating insults, I blocked him. My parents left voicemails heavy with disappointment. I ignored them and kept working, putting in 16-hour days to finalize the Hartwell order, knowing this contract could finally chip away at my crushing business loan. Last night, before collapsing into bed, I listened to one final message. Tyler's voice thick with alcohol. You'll regret choosing your stupid plants over family, Isla. Just wait. Now, standing in the wreckage, I understand exactly what he meant. I force myself upright and begin documenting everything. Section by section, I photograph broken glass, crushed inventory, ripped irrigation lines. When I've captured it all, I call the police. My voice trembles but remains precise. Yes, I'd like to report vandalism. I have footage clearly identifying the perpetrator. While waiting for the sirens, I wander through what remains of the main greenhouse. I remember buying this land 4 years ago, the pride that swelled in my chest as I signed those papers with money scraped together from working 3 jobs since high school. I remember the loan officer's condescending smile that faded once he saw my projections, my spreadsheets, my contingency plans. On the monitor, Tyler swings a hammer into a row of terracotta pots. His movements are measured, intentional. This wasn't rage, it was premeditated. Something inside me settles into hard clarity. The shock drains away, replaced by resolve. This ends today, I murmur. The words feel solid. By noon, after hours of statements and paperwork at the station, I pull into my parents' driveway with the police report tucked neatly beside me. The house that once felt imposing now seems smaller, diminished somehow. Mom answers the door wearing her Sunday cardigan despite it being Tuesday. "Isla, honey, we weren't expecting you." I ask to speak with everyone. In the living room, Dad sits in his recliner. Tyler sprawled across the couch, scrolling his phone. Neither rise when I enter. "My greenhouse was destroyed last night," I said evenly. "The entire Hartwell order." Mom gasps. Tyler remains expressionless. "The police have footage," I continue. He straightens slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." I connect my phone to the television. The screen lights up with Tyler's face staring straight into the camera before lifting the shears in mocking acknowledgement. The room fills with the sound of shattering ceramic and snapping stems. "Turn it off," Dad says after a long silence. "The police are pressing charges for criminal damage and breaking and entering," I reply. Mom immediately pleads for privacy. "We can handle this as a family." Dad reaches for his checkbook. "It's insured, isn't it? I'll pay the deductible. Tell them there's been a misunderstanding." A brittle laugh escapes me. "This isn't about money." "Then what?" Tyler snaps. "You want revenge?" "Consequences," I say. "Just consequences." Mom steps between us, still shielding him. When I mention the spare key they gave him, the room goes still. They've had access to my house for 4 years without my consent. The betrayal presses against my ribs until it's hard to breathe. Tyler explodes, finally confessing in a surge of anger that he's glad he did it. "You needed to be knocked down," always acting superior. Even with his admission hanging in the air, my parents defend him. I realize then that nothing I do will ever shift that dynamic. "I'm not dropping the charges," I say. Dad warns it will change everything. "Good," I answer. My phone buzzes repeatedly, Lisa offering a statement, Michael confirming he witnessed Tyler's hostility, Mr. Grayson from the bank reaffirming his confidence in my business, the Hartwell manager assuring me my integrity matters. These people, clients, colleagues, stand behind me more firmly than my own family ever has. I glance at the mantle lined with photos of Tyler's milestones. In one small frame sits my business license picture, almost hidden. I leave the family photo on the coffee table face down and walk out. The door closes behind me with a soft click that feels like a line being drawn.
The first time I planted something that grew, I was 14. A science teacher handed out lima beans wrapped in damp paper towels. Mine sprouted before anyone else's. I took it home, checked it obsessively, and when that first leaf unfurled, something awakened inside me. At 16, I sold potted herbs from a shaky folding table in our driveway. $20 in profit that first weekend. I tucked the bills into a coffee can labeled Greenhouse Fund, while other kids spent their money at the mall. "You're really going to save for 10 years? Dad laughed when I showed him the agricultural zoning paperwork. "That's not realistic, Isla." In the kitchen, Mom patted my shoulder. "It's a lovely hobby, sweetie." The next day, Tyler drove home in his graduation present, a glossy red Mustang that cost more than my entire savings goal. I watched from my bedroom window as Dad handed him the keys, both beaming with identical grins. That night, I applied for my second job, stocking shelves at the hardware store. For 3 years, I worked mornings at the coffee shop, afternoons at the hardware store, and weekends at the garden center. I slept 4 hours a night and took online business courses during lunch breaks. When customers complained about soil under their fingernails while I served their lattes, I smiled and apologized. Every tip went into the coffee can. The loan officer, a man with shiny cufflinks and a Harvard diploma on his wall, barely glanced at me when I first walked into his office. I was 22, wearing my only blazer and carrying a binder held together with duct tape. "So you want to grow plants?" He flipped through my business plan without reading it. "I want to build a specialized greenhouse focusing on drought-resistant ornamentals and rare specimen plants for high-end landscaping contracts." I kept my voice steady, the words practiced in front of my bathroom mirror for months. His eyebrows lifted. "Let's see your projections." 3 hours later, he approved the loan for half my requested amount. "It's the best I can do for someone with no business history. Take it or leave it." I took it, knowing I'd need to build the first greenhouse myself. The land I purchased sat 10 miles outside town, 27 acres of overgrown field with poor drainage but good southern exposure. The previous owner had abandoned it after failing to develop a subdivision. I got it for 30 cents on the dollar. That first year broke me down and rebuilt me. Every morning before my shift at the coffee shop, I cleared rocks and pulled stumps. Every evening after the hardware store, I dug drainage trenches by headlight. I slept in my truck most nights, too exhausted to drive home, using a tarp as my blanket. Rain soaked me, sun blistered my shoulders, mosquitoes feasted on every exposed inch of skin. Tyler visited once, pulling up in his Mustang while I was laying irrigation pipes. "This is what you're killing yourself for?" He gestured at the muddy field, the stack of lumber, the single-frame wall I'd raised. "Looks like a whole lot of nothing to me." I straightened, wiping sweat from my forehead. "It's not nothing to me." "Whatever," he shrugged, hands in his pockets. "Mom wants you to come to dinner Sunday. Dad's golf buddy is bringing his son. She thinks you'd hit it off. But can't. I'm pouring the concrete foundation. He rolled his eyes. You know they worry about you, right? This isn't normal. This isn't... I turned back to my work without answering. He left tire marks across my newly graded driveway. The first greenhouse took shape over autumn. A landscaper named Michael stopped by one afternoon when I was struggling with the roof beams. Want a hand? He asked, already rolling up his sleeves. We worked until midnight, securing the polycarbonate panels against winter winds. Afterward, we drank lukewarm coffee sitting on upturned buckets. Most people hire contractors for this kind of work, he said. Most people have more money than determination. I flexed my blistered hands. I have plenty of the second. During winter storms, I slept on a cot inside the greenhouse, afraid the structure wouldn't hold against the wind. When pipes froze and burst, I spent 3 days replumbing the entire system. When wholesalers wouldn't extend credit to a new business, I drove 6 hours each way to buy directly from growers, cramming seedlings into every inch of my truck. The morning I signed my first landscaping contract, $8,000 for a hotel renovation, I called my parents. That's wonderful, honey, Mom said, distracted. Tyler just got a promotion at the insurance office. We're taking him to Whistler to celebrate. I'd invite you, but I know how busy you are. I hung up and stood alone in my empty office, a metal desk inside a shipping container, surrounded by invoice copies and growing schedules pinned to plywood walls. Outside, thousands of plants flourished under my care. When the Hartwell contract came, $22,000 for a corporate headquarters installation, I spent every waking minute preparing. Each plant was perfectly placed, labeled, and documented. At midnight on the final day of preparation, I allowed myself a small celebration. 1 cup of coffee on my truck tailgate, watching moonlight play across rows of healthy plants. Only that night did I feel successful. Then came 2:17 a.m., and the security alert that shattered everything. The morning after Tyler destroyed my greenhouse, I stood among the wreckage as dawn broke, already making lists in my head. The insurance adjuster arrived at 9, expecting tears and confusion. Instead, I handed him a complete inventory with photographs, purchase dates, and replacement costs. Most people don't keep records this detailed, he said, surprised. I'm not most people. When I returned from my parents' house, 3 cars had pulled into my ruined driveway. The owner of the coffee shop where I had worked years before, a regular customer for my first plant sale, Michael, holding 2 cups of coffee and work gloves. We saw what happened on the community page, the coffee shop owner said. Thought you could use some help. They stayed until sunset, clearing debris and salvaging what plants could be saved. Michael worked silently beside me, matching my pace without conversation. My phone rang as we finished. The Hartwell project manager. I heard about what happened, she said. We can adjust our timeline if you need it. I looked across the devastation, at the small pile of salvage plants. I appreciate that. We chose your company because of your reputation for quality and resilience. That hasn't changed. When the court date arrived, 6 weeks later, I wore my work clothes, clean but bearing the permanent soil stains of my profession. The courtroom smelled of furniture polish and anxiety. Tyler sat with our parents, all 3 dressed as if attending church. I testified without embellishment. The security footage played on the courtroom monitor, Tyler's face clearly visible as he systematically destroyed years of my work. The judge watched without expression. When it was Tyler's turn, he spoke of stress and misunderstandings, of feeling excluded from family business opportunities, of deep remorse that didn't reach his eyes. Our parents sat directly behind him, not in the neutral middle row. The judge's ruling was swift. Full restitution, 200 hours of community service, a no-contact order. Tyler's face hardened as the terms were read. I walked out alone, squinting in the sudden sunlight. The greenhouse waited, already half rebuilt. Unlike the family behind me, it stood on foundations I could trust. 2 days later, the crunch of gravel under heavy boots announces the security installers are rising at 7 sharp. I'm already on my second coffee, having been awake since 4, reviewing blueprints for the rebuilt greenhouse. Sleep comes in short bursts these days. We'll start with 8 cameras, I tell the lead technician, pointing to the property diagram I've marked with red X's. Full coverage of every entrance, the parking area, and a special focus on the new greenhouse foundation.
He nods appreciatively at my preparation. Most folks just tell us to make it secure and leave it at that. I manage a small smile. I'm not leaving anything to chance again. The insurance check arrived yesterday, $18,000. Not enough to replace everything, but enough to begin. I've been sleeping on a cot in my small office, guarding what remains while planning the resurrection. Every penny has been allocated in my new spreadsheet. Security first, then structural repairs, then plants in strict order of profitability. The doorbell chimes as the technicians team gets to work. A woman I recognize from the Chamber of Commerce stands at the door holding a gift basket and an envelope. Isla Flores? I'm Catherine Daniels. We've never formally met, but the business association wanted to extend our support. She gestures at the destruction still visible through the broken glass walls. We heard what happened, and we want you to know the local business community stands with you. I accept the envelope with soil-stained fingers. Inside is an invitation to join the association with first-year dues waived. along with contact information for 3 new potential clients interested in commercial landscaping. Thank you, I say, the words feeling inadequate. Your resilience has impressed a lot of people, Catherine says before leaving. Not many would be rebuilding so quickly. By noon, I'm carefully transplanting salvageable seedlings according to my prioritized recovery schedule. My phone buzzes. Mom's number. The 4th call today. I silence it without breaking rhythm, my hands moving methodically through the soil. 10 minutes later, the security technician calls from outside. Miss Flores, your parents are at the gate asking to be let in. My fingers tighten around a small terracotta pot. Please inform them that I'm in the middle of critical work and can't be interrupted. 20 minutes pass before I hear Mom's voice, somehow inside the property. She must have followed one of the security vehicles through the gate. Isla, honey, we need to talk about healing our family. I don't look up from my work. This is private property. The business is closed for repairs. He's your brother, she says, her voice breaking. Family forgives family. Now I stand, wiping soil from my hands onto my jeans. I'll be happy to talk when Tyler completes his court-ordered restitution and community service. Until then, I have nothing to discuss. Dad steps forward from behind Mom. We've contacted Pastor Williams. He's willing to mediate a family meeting. No, I say, quietly, but with absolute certainty. I've documented this visit. Please leave, or I'll have to call the officer handling my case. Their faces show the shock of unfamiliar consequences. They've never heard this tone from me before. That evening, I noticed Tyler's truck driving slowly past the property, despite the no-contact order. I photograph the vehicle and forward it to my lawyer without emotion. Each violation strengthens my case. Each documented instance builds the wall between my past and my future. Later, I find 3 new 1-star reviews online for my business, all posted within an hour. The writing style matches Mom's Bridge Club friends. I flag them as harassment without reading beyond the first lines. The next morning, Michael arrives with coffee and bagels. What started as professional landscape architecture consultations has evolved into something neither of us has named yet. The new greenhouse frame arrives next Tuesday, he says, consulting his tablet. I've confirmed with the manufacturer. I nod, allowing myself a moment to appreciate how he remembers every detail without being asked. I'm hiring 2 assistants next week, part-time to start. He looks up, surprise evident. You've never wanted employees before. I can't build this alone anymore, I admit. The words feel strange in my mouth, an acknowledgement of both limitation and expansion. And the Westridge corporate contract needs more hands than mine. The Westridge corporate contract? When did that happen? This morning. They called after seeing that article in the Business Journal. I hadn't sought publicity, but a reporter had found the court case and turned it into a story about small business resilience. Michael grins. That's twice the size of Hartwell. I know. For the first time in weeks, I allow myself a genuine smile. I'm making the first extra loan payment on Friday. We walk the property together, discussing placement for the expanded growing areas. The old greenhouse foundation has been cleared, ready for something larger and stronger. Through the chain link fence, I notice several members of my parents' country club watching us with uncomfortable expressions. News travels fast in this town. Your mother called me yesterday, Michael says, casually, testing a support beam. I freeze. What? Asked if I'd talk some sense into you about dropping the charges. Seemed shocked when I said you were making the right decision. The familiar pressure builds behind my eyes, but I blink it away. They'll try everyone eventually. Thank you for what? For not needing an explanation. That evening, I receive a text from an unknown number. One of my employees from last season asking if positions are still available. Then another from a local supplier offering credit terms to help with the rebuild. I sit at my makeshift desk surrounded by growing signs of recovery. Security cameras now monitor every approach to my property. New relationships with neighboring businesses ensure multiple eyes watching when I'm not here. The greenhouse frame scheduled for delivery. 2 new employees starting Monday. The Westridge contract signed and filed. Tyler took what I had built, but in doing so, he forced me to build something stronger. I review my planting schedule one last time before allowing myself 6 hours of sleep, the most I've scheduled since that night. Tomorrow brings another day of calculated growth, another day of boundaries maintained, another day of rebuilding not just what was, but what should be. For the first time since the destruction, I fall asleep without checking the security cameras first. After 6 weeks of boundaries and unanswered calls, Mother's text arrives as I'm finishing inventory. Family dinner tonight, 7 p.m., time to make peace. I read it 3 times, stomach tightening. This feels like another ambush, but avoiding them forever isn't the solution. You don't have to go, Michael says when I call him, but if you decide to, I'm coming with you. I'm coming with you. I decided to go, but I am bringing all other evidence of my brother's harassment. That evening, his steady presence beside me as we pull into my parents' driveway steadies my breathing. The house looks exactly the same. Pristine lawn, polished brass knocker, autumn wreath perfectly centered. Mom opens the door before we knock, her smile too bright. "Isla, honey." She embraces me stiffly. Her perfume, the same she's worn for 20 years, tickles my nose. "And you must be Michael. So nice to finally meet you." "And Simise." The dining room glows with candlelight. Mother's best china gleams on the table, along with crystal water glasses that appear only for special occasions. Dad stands by his chair, forcing a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "Good to see you, Princess," he says, using my childhood nickname for the first time in a decade. Something feels off. The table is set for 5. Then I hear footsteps from the kitchen. My body tenses before my brain fully registers. "Tyler." He steps into the dining room holding a casserole dish, wearing an expression of practiced humility. "The restraining order explicitly states you must stay 500 feet away from me." "What is this?" My voice drops to a dangerous calm. "Now, Isla," Mom interjects quickly. "We thought it was time for everyone to talk this through like adults."
Michael's hand finds the small of my back, grounding me. I notice Dad's eyes track the movement, his jaw tightening. "Tyler isn't supposed to be within 500 feet of me," I say quietly. "That's not my rule, it's the court's." "Which is exactly what we need to discuss," Dad says, gesturing to the chairs. "Sit, please." "Your mother made pot roast." The audacity is breathtaking. I remain standing. "We're family," Mom continues, her voice slipping into the gentle manipulation I've heard all my life. "What will the neighbors think? The Flores family in court against each other? Your grandfather would be heartbroken." Dad nods solemnly. "We've talked about this extensively with Tyler. He's ready to apologize properly." On cue, Tyler steps forward. "Isla, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I was in a bad place, but I've been going to those anger management classes. I've changed." His words flow too smoothly, rehearsed in front of our parents' bathroom mirror, no doubt. I've heard variations of this speech since we were children. After he broke my science project, after he borrowed my car and crashed it, after each disaster that our parents helped him escape. "What exactly are you hoping will happen tonight?" I ask, looking between the 3 of them. Mom reaches for the breadbasket. "Well, we thought once Tyler apologizes, you could reconsider pressing charges. Your father can cover any remaining damages." "The insurance already covered the damages," I say. "The criminal record is what's hurting him." Dad explains as if I don't understand. He's had 3 job interviews fall through because of it. I open my messenger bag and remove a folder. "This is a printout of Tyler driving by my greenhouse 4 times last week," I say, placing the first page on the table. "This is from yesterday, when he parked outside my house for 27 minutes. Another page. And this is a copy of the messages he sent from different numbers since his regular one was blocked. Their faces reveal everything. They knew. True amends would mean respecting the boundaries set by the court." I continue. "It would mean Tyler getting a job, any job, and paying restitution himself instead of using Dad's money. It would mean actual change, not just words." Mom's hand flutters to her throat. "Isla, family is above all." "No," I interrupt, my voice firm but not loud. "Respect is above all. Consequences are necessary." Glow. "You've always been so high and mighty." Tyler snaps, the mask of contrition slipping. "You think your precious plants make you better than everyone." Dad stands, reaching for his wallet. "Look, I'll write a check right now, whatever amount you want. Let's put this ugliness behind us." "This isn't about money," I say. "It never was." Mom looks genuinely confused. Money and appearances have always been their solution to everything. I stand straighter. "When you're ready to respect my boundaries, the legal ones and the personal ones, I'll be here. But reconciliation requires changed behavior, not just words." Tyler's face contorts with rage. "You self-righteous bitch. You've always thought you were too good for this family." "Tyler!" Mom gasps, but I notice she moves toward him, not me, still protecting him even now. "You see?" Dad gestures wildly. "This is what your stubbornness causes. If you just forgive and forget." "Like you taught him to do?" I ask quietly. When has Tyler ever had to truly face consequences? The truth lands like a physical blow. Mom's face crumples as decades of enabling flash before her eyes. Dad looks lost without his checkbook solution. I turn to leave. Michael, a steady presence, beside me. The chaos of raised voices follows us to the door. Outside, the evening is surprisingly peaceful. Stars appear in the darkening sky. I take my first deep breath since arriving, the weight lifting from my shoulders with each step toward the car. "Are you okay?" Michael asks as we drive away. I watch my childhood home recede in the side mirror. For the first time, it looks small. "Yes," I answer, surprised to find it's true. I really am. Morning sunlight streams through the newly installed skylights, casting diamond patterns across my expanded greenhouse floor. 1 year has transformed this space from devastation to abundance. Plants of every variety stretch toward the light. Orchids with arching stems, succulents forming geometric tiles, and hanging ferns creating living curtains in the corners. Miss Flores. Elaine appears at the doorway, clipboard in hand. My newest employee, hired just last month to help manage our growing client list. The Martin account paperwork is ready for your signature. I glance at my watch, 7:30 a.m., the day already humming with purpose. Thanks, I'll review it before our team meeting. I adjust the drip irrigation system for a row of specialty herbs destined for Chef Anthony's restaurant next week. In my office, a simple space I built with reclaimed wood and large windows, I pause before the framed business plan hanging beside my desk. The paper has yellowed slightly, but my handwriting remains bold and clear, detailing every aspect of the dream I refuse to abandon. The loan officer had raised his eyebrows when I first presented it, but yesterday his congratulatory email arrived. 70% of my loan repaid ahead of schedule, refinanced at a rate that seemed impossible a year ago. My phone buzzes with a text from Michael. Dinner tonight to celebrate the refinance? I've got something special planned. The warmth spreading through my chest has nothing to do with the morning sun. What began as professional respect has grown into something I never expected to find. A relationship built on mutual admiration rather than obligation. Dr. Watts would call this progress. Our weekly therapy sessions have helped me understand the difference between family ties and family bonds. One is automatic, the other earned. Last month, I discussed Tyler without my hand shaking or voice tightening. Not forgiveness exactly, but freedom from the anger that once threatened to root in my heart like an invasive species. The greenhouse doorbell chimes. Through the glass, I recognize my mother's silver sedan. She stands uncertainly by her car, clutching a small plant in a terracotta pot. Our relationship exists in careful texts and occasional coffee meetings. Now her attempts at connection, respectfully observing my boundaries. Dad hasn't visited once, still waiting for an apology I won't offer for protecting what's mine. Timer completed his court-ordered community service with performative compliance, making the motions without true change. Last week, he applied for a job at Harrison's Garden Center across town, listing extensive greenhouse experience on his resume. The owner called to verify, one of many bridges Tyler didn't realize I'd built in this community. Good morning, I call to my team as they arrive for our daily huddle. Faces bright with purpose, people who chose to be here, who value what we've built together. After work, I walk the property perimeter, surveying what we've accomplished. Security cameras gleam discreetly from corners. New beds burst with color where destruction once reigned. The client whose order Tyler destroyed now places orders triple the size, impressed by how we handled adversity. Michael arrives as evening softens the light. He seems nervous, fidgeting with something in his pocket as he suggests a walk through the largest greenhouse. Beneath the arbor of climbing roses I propagated from cuttings, he kneels, question and ring offered together. Later, we host an impromptu celebration dinner with my employees and friends, the family I've chosen. Laughter echoes across tables set among flowering plants. When we raise glasses and toast, my eyes catch the newly installed sign above the main entrance, Flora's Family Greenhouse. The name remains, but its meaning has transformed completely. Family is what you build, not just what you're born into. And what I've built will continue to flourish, season after season, rooted in strength rather than obligation.